I jerked the steering wheel sharply to the right, tires shrieking as the car hydroplaned through the rain. A deafening horn exploded behind me, an 18-wheeler's headlights cutting through the storm, blinding white and far too close. For a split second, my life flickered before my eyes. Then the car jolted violently as the wheels bounced off the slick pavement and onto the grassy shoulder. The massive truck roared past, missing me by barely a foot, vanishing into the curtain of rain with a banshee's scream of engine noise. My pulse hammered. I exhaled, forcing shaky breath from my lungs. I rolled down the window, stuck my head out into the downpour, and yelled, "Asshole!" at the truck's disappearing taillights. My voice vanished into the storm. A second later, a woman's indignant voice snapped through my car's speakers. "I beg your damn pardon?" "Oh, Clara, not you," I muttered, sinking back into my seat. Nearly got flattened by a logging truck drifting into my lane.
There was a pause, then the faint sound of a chuckle. "Well, isn't that just lovely?" Clara Monroe, my literary agent, said dryly. "Glad you're not a red stain on the highway. You're too valuable a client for that." "Good to know someone cares," I replied with a tired laugh, easing my hands off the trembling wheel. Outside, the Oregon rain poured endlessly. The winter of 2022 had been merciless. I was driving north from Gold Beach to Seattle for my very first book signing, fresh off my debut novel hitting the bestseller list, a milestone that felt surreal and, judging by this storm, cursed.
Clara had begged me to fly instead, but after 9/11, flying and I had parted ways forever. So I'd taken the rental, a glossy black Chrysler 300, and settled in for the 7-hour drive. "Ethan, do you even know where you are right now?" Clara's voice broke through again. I squinted at the flickering GPS, the screen glitching every few seconds. "Piece of junk," I grumbled. "This thing's as lost as I am. So much for Enterprise being a reliable company." "Just don't end up in Canada," she teased. I forced a smile. "No promises." As the rain lashed harder, a flickering sign passed on the right, gas station symbol, a glowing beacon through the mist. "Thank God, there's a station ahead," I said. "I'll stop, refuel, and call you back." "Don't be long," Clara warned. "Your publisher will kill you if you're late to your first signing." "Understood." I hung up, the car falling into blessed silence. For a moment, I just listened. The rhythmic slap of wipers, the hiss of rain against metal. The world felt smaller, tighter. The road stretched ahead, hemmed in by endless trees pressing close to the asphalt, their wet trunks glistening like sentinels. Then, through the storm, a glow appeared, a faint, nostalgic light. As I approached, it resolved into a lonely gas station. Its sign spun lazily in the wind, a faded green dinosaur above the word Sinclair. I frowned. Sinclair? Thought they shut down years ago. Still, I pulled in, tires crunching over the black hose that triggered an old-fashioned bell. Ding ding! The place looked ancient, its overhang buzzing with sickly yellow light. The rain softened to a drizzle as I parked beside the pump, engine ticking as it cooled. 10 minutes passed. I tapped the horn once, then again. Blarp. The sound shattered the stillness, echoing into the forest. No movement, no clerk. Cursing under my breath, I stepped out. The cold bit instantly, slicing through my coat. The forest hissed and whispered around me, crickets and wind weaving together an uneasy chorus. The garage bays yawned open, revealing a rusted Cadillac and an old International Scout suspended on lifts. Still no one. I leaned into the car and honked again,
longer this time. The echo bounced off the trees, off the station walls, and back at me. The noise felt sacrilegious somehow, like waking something that should have stayed asleep. I shivered. Where the hell is everyone? No answer. And I hadn't seen another soul in nearly 3 hours, not since that damn logging truck. I didn't want to risk running out of gas on a dark back road, so I slammed the car door shut and trudged toward the open bay. Inside, the floor was slick with oil, tools and hoses scattered like discarded bones. The fluorescent bulbs flickered above, buzzing like insects. I was about to call out again when a door burst open. "Evening." I nearly jumped out of my skin. A man stepped out, wiping his hands on a red rag. He was in his late 40s or 50s, wearing a green Sinclair jumpsuit with a stitched patch that read W. Briggs. His grin flashed white in the flickering light. "Sorry, didn't mean to make you wait so long," he said with a hearty laugh. I exhaled, heart still hammering. "You nearly scared the hell out of me." He chuckled. "Happens a lot round here. Folks think this place has been dead for decades." "I did think it was closed," I admitted. He tipped his head. "Not quite yet. Just me on the night shift." "You need gas?" "Yeah, regular, please." He nodded and grabbed the pump. "Nice car you got there." "Rental," I said quickly, realizing too late how defensive I sounded. He smiled. "Still, better than most we see here. Most folks passing through here drive beat-up pickups, not Chryslers." I gave a small laugh. "Guess I'm the odd one out." "Guess so," he replied, inserting the nozzle. The pump began its slow, steady click. "You from around here?" I asked. He nodded vaguely. "Born and raised in these woods. Guess you could say the place grows on you." Something in his tone made me uneasy, though I couldn't place why. "I'm just heading to Seattle, book signing." He perked up. "You're a writer?" "Yeah, horror, actually." His face lit up. "No kidding, that's my favorite genre. You ever see anything truly scary yourself?" The question threw me off. No, I just write what scares others, I guess." He laughed softly. "Ah, shame. Real fear is a gift, you know? Helps you understand people." I smiled awkwardly. "Maybe I'll find it again someday." "Maybe," Walter said, almost kindly. Then the pump clicked off. "That'll be 23.17. I blinked. "That's cheap?" He shrugged. "We don't get much traffic out here." I handed him my credit card. "You take these?" "Sure do," he said cheerfully, "but the reader's inside. I'll run it and bring you your receipt." "Sure thing." He turned toward the station, the red rag swaying from his pocket. That's when I noticed it. A long tear down the back of his jumpsuit, fabric split wide, revealing a dirty white shirt beneath. "Hey," I called out, "your suit's ripped." He turned, still smiling. "I know, haven't gotten round to fixing it yet." With that, he disappeared through the office door, the bell chiming faintly behind him. Silence fell again, thick, suffocating. I leaned against the hood, staring into the forest. The lights buzzed overhead, rain tapping rhythmically against metal. Then, after a few minutes, the forest went quiet. Completely quiet. No crickets, no wind, no rain. Just the electric hum of the lights and the sound of my own heartbeat. The silence pressed in on me, thick and absolute. I'd lived in rural Oregon for years, but I'd never experienced a quiet like that, not even in the deep woods. It was unnatural. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. I swallowed hard, glancing toward the office door. Walter had been gone at least 10 minutes.
maybe more. My watch ticked too loudly in the stillness. Come on, man, and I hit the horn again. The sound split the night like a gunshot. When it died, the silence came back, heavier, almost angry. All right, I whispered. Screw this. I stepped around the car, boots crunching on cracked concrete. The air felt colder now, the smell of wet pine mixed with old oil. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like dying bees.
The office door loomed ahead, its small window glowing faintly. I grabbed the handle. It was ice cold to the touch, and pushed it open. The bell jingled once, far too loud. Inside, the air was thick with dust. Old shelves lined the walls, stacked with ancient cans of motor oil and grimy spark plugs. A rusted Coca-Cola machine hummed faintly in one corner. There were no snacks, no drinks, nothing that suggested anyone had been in here recently. Walter? My voice came out quieter than I intended. No answer. I stepped further in. The counter sat beneath flickering lights, an old-style cash register perched on top like a relic. Behind it, a half-open door marked "Employees Only" revealed a long, tiled hallway fading into shadow.
Hey, Walter, you back there? Still nothing. The buzzing of the lights felt louder now, gnawing at the edge of my nerves. The musty smell was stronger. I rubbed the back of my neck, suddenly aware of the goosebumps there. Look, I'm coming back to use the restroom, I called, trying to sound casual. Just so you know. I hopped over the counter and stepped into the hallway. The temperature dropped instantly.
The corridor stretched ahead, dimly lit by a few hanging bulbs that swayed slightly. My footsteps echoed hollowly. The tiles beneath me were stained, cracked. As I moved forward, the sound of my own breathing seemed too loud. Halfway down, I spotted a door with a blue restroom sign. Out of habit, I twisted the handle and peeked in, then immediately slammed it shut, gagging. The stench was unbearable. The toilet was black with mold, and cobwebs clung to every corner. It looked like it hadn't been used or cleaned in decades. Jesus Christ, I muttered, stepping back. That's when I noticed a faint glow further down the hall. A doorway brighter than the rest. My instincts screamed to leave, to get in my car and drive until dawn. But something else, curiosity, dread, maybe both, pushed me onward. I crept closer, passing another open doorway on my left. Through it, I glimpsed the garage bays again, rain glistening beyond the threshold. For a moment, the cool air from outside brushed my face, easing my tension. Then I saw it. A small office at the end of the corridor. 2 desks, papers scattered. On the far desk, my credit card, lying in the middle like bait. Relief and unease mixed in my chest. I stepped in quickly, snatched the card, and exhaled. Thank God. I was already turning to leave when something on the wall caught my eye. A framed photograph, black and white, slightly yellowed. Walter's face smiled back at me. Same slicked hair, same bright eyes. Below it, a gold-colored plaque read, "Employee of the Month, Walter Briggs, August 1976. My grin faded. 1976? That couldn't be right. The man I'd spoken to was maybe in his 50s. If this photo was real, he'd be in his 90s now.
I blinked, hoping it was a trick of the light, but the numbers didn't change. A cold wave rolled through me. "What the hell?" I whispered. I turned and froze. Walter was sitting in a chair in the next room, his back to me.
The room behind him was darker, lit only by a weak bulb swinging above his head. His silhouette was still, too still. My heartbeat thudded painfully in my ears. "Walter?" He didn't move. I took a step closer, my voice shaking. "Hey, sorry for coming back here. He cut me off. "Well, Mr. Graves," he said, voice low and flat. I stopped breathing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean, how do you feel?" "What? How do you feel?" he repeated, his tone suddenly rising, words sharp and deliberate. A shudder ran through me.
"Look, if this is some kind of joke." He laughed softly, the sound warped and wrong. "You don't have to tell me," he said. "I can feel it." Something primal in me screamed to run. He rose slowly, still facing away. "And I'm happy about that," he said, voice deepening unnaturally. "You all taste so much better when you're afraid." "What the hell are you talking about?" I stammered, glancing around for a weapon. That's when he collapsed forward onto the floor. For a heartbeat, I thought he'd fainted, until I saw him hit the ground with a sickening, hollow sound. His body crumpled like an empty suit. "Jesus! Walter!" I shouted, stepping back.
The fabric of his jumpsuit deflated, the shape underneath caving in. Through the tear on his back, I saw what looked like torn fabric, and beneath it, a gaping hole where flesh should have been. Bone glinted pale white in the dim light. Oh, God. Then I heard it. A voice, not Walter's. Deeper. Inhuman. It came from everywhere at once. 20. I froze. 19. The voice crawled through the air, vibrating in my bones. I turned toward the darkened room and saw them. Two enormous eyes glowed from within the black, emerald green and crescent-shaped, gleaming with wicked glee. I screamed. The laughter that followed was thunderous, metallic, scraping, like nails dragged across the walls of my mind. Then softly it began counting again. 16, 15, 14. I didn't wait for 13. I ran. The corridor stretched ahead, my footsteps slapping against tile. The light bulbs flickered wildly. I turned the corner and found myself staring at the office door again. "What the? No, I gasped, spinning around. The voice laughed. 10. I sprinted again, harder this time, lungs burning. My mind refused to process what was happening. The hallway bent in impossible ways. I could see the same door at the far end, no matter how fast I ran. 7, 6, 5. I sobbed as I ran, slamming into the wall near the counter. My knees gave out. 3, 2, 1. The final word was almost whispered, and yet it echoed like thunder. "Ready or not, Mr. Graves," the voice said, dropping an octave so deep it felt like the floor vibrated. I felt hot, rancid breath on the back of my neck. The air around me trembled, vibrating with a low hum that felt alive. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. Something was behind me. Something huge, Slowly, I turned. The office was gone. The counter, the flickering bulbs, the exit, all swallowed by darkness. The only light came from a faint green glow pulsing behind me, spilling across the floor like veins of phosphorescent blood. I backed away from it. "Walter?" My voice cracked. No answer. A shape moved in the dark, crawling, dragging. I heard the wet slap of limbs against tile. Then the smell hit me. Rot, oil, and something coppery. "Stay back," I whispered, fumbling for my phone. My flashlight flicked on, a trembling cone of light cutting through the murk. And there it was, Walter's body, or what was left of it. His jumpsuit hung open, empty except for a glistening mass of black fluid and bone fragments. But from that mess something moved, tendrils, slick and worm-like, twitching as if searching the air. I screamed and stumbled backward, slamming into a wall. My flashlight shook violently in my hand. Then the body spoke. "Ethan." It wasn't Walter's voice anymore. It was deeper, stretched, layered with multiple tones. "Stay away from me," I shouted, grabbing a rusted wrench from a nearby shelf. The tendrils lifted, writhing toward me. From their tips, small mouths opened, gasping soundlessly. "Ethan Graves, you write about fear. You feed on it." I swung the wrench wildly, connecting with one of the tendrils. It exploded into dark fluid that hissed when it hit the floor. The voice laughed, the same metallic scraping sound as before. "Then feed, writer. Feed on this." The walls shifted, literally shifted. Tiles peeled away, curling like paper, revealing fleshy, pulsating layers beneath, a living structure breathing around me. The floor rippled, making me lose my balance. I bolted down the hallway. My boots slipped on the slick tiles, my heart pounding against my ribs. Every step echoed, but not in sync. Something was following me, matching my pace a second too late. I turned a corner and slammed straight into the door that should have led outside. I shoved it. It didn't move. I hit it with my shoulder again and again, screaming. It wouldn't budge. Behind me, the hallway stretched and groaned. The ceiling was lower now. The light bulbs flickered, then burst one by one, pop, 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 plunging me into near total dark. The voice came again. "You shouldn't have stopped here, Ethan." My pulse spiked. "What are you?" "I am what waits when the lights go out." The air was thick, pressing against my lungs. "Where's Walter?" I demanded. A pause, then a soft, mocking whisper. "You met him. He stayed too long, too." I pounded at the door one last time, and it suddenly gave way, flinging open so hard I stumbled through it. I landed on wet concrete. Rain poured over me again. I looked up. The station was there, but wrong. It looked burned.
The roof sagged inward, the windows shattered. Vines and moss covered the signage. The pumps were rusted and broken. It was a ruin. Lightning flashed, and for an instant I saw the forest beyond, the trees twisted, blackened, their branches like skeletal hands. "This isn't real," I muttered. "This isn't real." The rain hissed louder, rising into a roar. Then, from behind me, I heard the bell above the door. Ding, ding. I turned. The office door swung open by itself. A figure stepped out, tall, shrouded in a soaked green jumpsuit. The name tag glinted in the lightning. W. Briggs. But the face beneath the cap wasn't human. Its skin was black and slick, the mouth too wide, stretching from ear to ear. Empty sockets stared from where eyes should have been. It raised a hand, skeletal, dripping, and pointed at me. "You never left," it whispered.
I staggered backward. No, no, no. The forest behind me groaned, literally groaned like an animal in pain. Branches snapped, the ground shifted beneath my feet. The figure took a step forward, then another. The bell rang again. Ding, ding. Lightning flashed once more, and behind the figure, I saw others. Dozens of them, emerging from the shadows of the station. Men, women, children, all wearing oil-stained Sinclair uniforms. Their faces were stretched, melted, their mouths hanging open in silent screams. I bolted toward the car.
It was right where I'd left it, the sleek black Chrysler, shining wet under the rain. I yanked the handle. It opened. I dove inside, slammed the door, and hit the ignition. Nothing. The engine sputtered once, then died. "Come on!" I screamed, pounding the steering wheel. Outside, the figures were getting closer, their movements jerky and unnatural. The nearest one, a woman with half a face, reached out and slapped her palm against the windshield. Her fingers left smears of black oil across the glass. I twisted the key again. This time, the engine roared to life. I floored it, tires screeching on the wet pavement. The figures scattered, vanishing into the storm. I didn't look back. The forest swallowed the road. I drove blindly, the wipers barely keeping up with the rain. My hands trembled so badly I could barely keep control. After what felt like hours, the rain began to fade. My headlights illuminated a green road sign. US 101, north, Seattle 120 miles. Relief flooded through me. I was out. I was free. Or so I thought. A faint sound broke the silence. Ding, ding. I froze. The same bell from the station.
It came from the back seat. Slowly, I turned. Nothing. Just shadows. I exhaled shakily, rubbing my face. Get it together, Graves. You're fine. Your movement in the rearview mirror. For a split second, I saw a face. Slick, black, eyeless, grinning back at me from the back seat. I screamed, swerved, and slammed on the brakes. The car skidded sideways, tires shrieking. I spun off the road, down an embankment, and crashed nose first into a ditch. The airbags exploded. Darkness swallowed everything.
When I woke, it was dawn. The rain had stopped. The forest was calm again, mist curling through the trees. My head throbbed, and the car was totaled. Airbags deflated, windshield shattered. I pushed the door open and stumbled out, coughing. The air was crisp and cold. "Clara," I muttered, pulling my phone from my pocket. Miraculously, it still worked. I called her. She answered instantly. "Ethan, "Oh my God, where are you? You vanished. You never called me back."
I looked around. No station, no figures, just endless forest. "I think I'm okay," I lied. "Jesus, Ethan, we've been trying to reach you all night." "All night?" "Yeah, you texted me around 8:30 saying you'd found a gas station. Then, nothing." "I never texted you." Silence. "I'll send a tow truck," she said quickly. "Just don't move, okay?" I nodded, though she couldn't see me. "Okay." When the call ended, I sat back against the car, staring at the mist. That's when I noticed it. Faint, smeared across the passenger side window. Fingerprints. 5 long streaks of black oil. The tow truck arrived just after sunrise. A red and white rig with mud-caked tires rolled down the dirt road, its headlights cutting through the fog. A man climbed out, broad-shouldered, wearing dark sunglasses and a faded cap that said Oregon Diesel. "You must be Graves," he said, glancing at my wrecked Chrysler. "Yeah," I croaked. My throat was raw. "Guess I lost control in the storm." He gave a low whistle. "You're lucky. A road like this eats people alive. Come on, I'll give you a lift to town." I hesitated, then nodded. Anything was better than staying here. He hooked the Chrysler to the winch while I sat on a log, rubbing my temples. The forest was eerily quiet again. Though in daylight, it felt less threatening, almost peaceful. Almost. The smell of oil lingered faintly in the air.
When the car was secure, the man waved me toward his truck. "Hop in. There's a diner about 15 miles north. You can get coffee and make your calls." I climbed into the cab. The heater blasted warm air, and for the first time in hours, I felt human again. We drove in silence for a while. After about 10 minutes, I glanced at his dashboard. A small green sticker was stuck to the corner of the windshield, one of those old dinosaur logos from Sinclair gasoline. My stomach twisted. "Where do you get that?" I asked carefully. He looked over, confused. "What, the sticker?"
"Yeah," he shrugged. "Hell if I know. Been there since I bought the truck." I forced a laugh. "Right." But my pulse wouldn't slow. The forest outside looked too familiar. The curve of the road, the way the trees leaned. "Hey," I said after a moment, "what town are we heading to again?" He adjusted his cap. "Just up ahead, little place off the highway." Something about his tone made my skin crawl. "Name of it?" He smiled faintly. "Sinclair Junction." My blood ran cold. Lightning fast, I looked at him again. His sunglasses had slipped slightly down his nose, revealing not eyes, but black, glossy hollows beneath. I lunged for the door handle. He grabbed my wrist, his grip impossibly strong. Now, he said softly, "you can't leave yet, Mr. Graves. You still owe us a story." I yanked free and threw the door open, tumbling out onto the roadside gravel. The world spun as I hit the ground hard. When I looked up, the truck was gone. Completely gone. Just tire tracks leading back into the fog.
"Jesus Christ," I whispered, stumbling to my feet. My head throbbed, but I ran anyway, north, toward what I prayed was civilization. After half an hour, I saw it,
a neon sign glowing faintly through the mist. Diner, open 24 hours. I nearly cried. Inside, the warmth and the smell of coffee hit me like a dream. A waitress looked up from behind the counter, smiling. "Morning, hun. You look like you've been through hell." "You have no idea," I muttered, collapsing into a booth. Coffee, black. She poured without a word. The cup trembled in my hands as I drank. My reflection in the window looked pale, haunted, hollow-eyed. Behind me, the TV above the counter crackled with morning news.
Police have confirmed that the remains found near Gold Beach belong to local mechanic Walter Briggs, missing since 1976. The cup slipped from my hand, shattering on the floor. "Everything okay, hun?" the waitress asked. I looked up at her. The name stitched on her apron made my blood freeze. W. Briggs. She smiled, the corners of her mouth stretching just a little too far. "I think you dropped something," she said softly. Her eyes were pitch black. I bolted from the booth, stumbling backward toward the door. But when I turned, it wasn't there. The diner was gone. The walls had changed again, now cracked concrete, flickering bulbs, the smell of oil. The station. The same sound echoed, ding ding, as if the door had opened behind me. A voice whispered close to my ear. "Welcome back, Mr. Graves." I spun around. The figures were there again, standing in a perfect semicircle. Dozens of them, their faces smooth, featureless, glistening like melted wax. And at their center stood Walter, his grin calm, patient. "You wrote about monsters," he said, voice almost kind. "But you never understood them." He stepped closer. His empty eyes glowed faintly green. "Fear isn't something you write. It's something you become." The floor opened beneath me. I fell, through layers of dripping concrete and flesh, through the smell of gasoline and rot, down into blackness. When I hit bottom, it wasn't ground that caught me. It was liquid, thick, cold, and alive. Hands reached up from beneath the surface, pulling me under. I screamed until my lungs filled with oil. When I woke, I was sitting behind a counter. A green Sinclair uniform clung to my body. My hands were rough, covered in grime. Outside, the rain beat softly against the station roof. A bell rang. Ding ding! Headlights cut through the mist as a black Chrysler 300 pulled up to the pump. A man stepped out, blinking at the rain. He looked tired, nervous, familiar. I smiled automatically, words tumbling from my lips like a reflex I didn't understand. "Evening," I said. "Sorry, didn't mean to make you wait so long." The man frowned. "You nearly scared the hell out of me." I chuckled. "Happens a lot round here." He looked up at the flickering sign. "Didn't think this place was still open." "Not quite yet," I said softly. "Just me on the night shift." The rain outside fell harder. Somewhere deep below, something laughed.